Guru Kripa Kevalam. Namaste everyone and welcome to Satsang today. Sadguru Shri Muji Baba ki. How's everyone? So, are we going to want absolute answers to the relative and relative answers to the absolute today as well, or? Okay, let's see what one is saying. Let's start with Paula.
Namaste, Ananta-ji.
Namaste, my dear.
You gave me an exercise last satsang.
What was it? I'm sorry, I forgot.
Um, you asked me to check if if it's possible to not to only be the sensations and not
Yeah.
be the witnessing, and it's not possible.
Not possible.
It's not possible at all. And this it was a lot of joy there to recognize this. And I saw also what you said, that the mind comes with a but after these kind of insights, and also that um, that there's like this seeker identity grabs or take ownership of this, and this becomes a mental thing.
Yes. Very good.
So
Yes.
so honestly, I just don't want to keep going with this but.
Yeah.
So
Is it but I don't want to keep going with this but or?
probably. Yes. um I, I just ask for your blessings and your grace, because I see that this can keep going and going endlessly, and I just don't want to be like addicted to satsang or to all this. It can't keep going like this. So and I see that it's just your grace, Guruji's grace, Sadguru's grace, life grace.
It's very good. My
Yes.
blessings, of course, always with you. Always with you. You see? And we can look a bit also because sometimes the mind can hide behind even the most auspicious sounding prayer. You see? And for example, a statement came up which was, I don't want to be addicted to satsang. No? So, so who is that one hiding behind that? Is it the same witnessing that you notice does not go away?
No.
You see? So then satsang, or actually, what is satsang? Satsang is just the company of the truth, no? Being with the truth. And how to be with the truth is only to not take yourself to be the false. The truth is natural. The truth is organic. The truth is ever present. You see, it's like a dust cloud that comes, which is the identification with the false. So to not allow that dust cloud to settle is to stay with the truth. You see, so in one way we can say the blessing can be that may you be addicted to only the truth. And I can understand from the other perspective also that you don't want to use anything as a crutch anymore. You see?
Yes.
You see? So, so Let all that also play out. Don't hold any position. Don't hold any condition at all. You see? Because the truth is unconditional. And don't worry, you'll be fine. That much reassurance I can give you. Because the worry with not holding on to any condition is that we feel like if we don't hold on to the good condition, then we may get lost again or something like that. But that does not happen.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Welcome. So welcome.
I just feel by the moment there's nothing else to say, just listening to you and
Completely empty. Completely empty of all positions, all conditions, all notions, is to remain in the unborn, is to remain in the emptiness that Guruji is pointing us to. And it is not a repression or a suppression of any notion from coming up. You see, it is just not valuing it enough to make it true. What is belief? Belief is the power that consciousness has to take a notion which is just an energy construct, proposing an idea about what is. You see, an idea about what is. And consciousness has given itself the power to take that to be a valid representation of what is. You see? Now, all that we are doing when we are letting go is not valuing the notional idea more than our own being, more than our very existence, our very self. You see, that exchange is never useful. No matter how glorious the words may sound, no matter how humble the words may sound, the words can never be greater than your very being, your very self that is aware of this being, even. That is the mind's game. It's playing a barter game, saying you exchange what I have, you see, and you exchange what I have for what you have, and we'll make it a fair exchange. But it never is an equal exchange. The only way to play the game of limitation, the only way to play the game of limiting the being, although it never really gets limited, the leela of limiting the being is through defining it through some mental construct. Reality is so vast, so broad, so beyond anything that we can convey in words. And you can see how the mind struggles, because the mind, in its design by consciousness itself, is designed to grasp at reality and try to define it in some way. You see? So even our spiritual definitions that it is unlimited, you see, it's an attempt by the mind to grasp. You see? But it's not like limit doesn't apply, so it's neither limited nor unlimited. Time doesn't apply, so it's neither timeless nor timeful. You see? Space doesn't apply, so it's not spacious nor constricted. All our attempts to define this are futile. So don't encapsulate your discovery in any definition, because it will no longer remain a discovery, it will become a concept, it will become a new prison. And where is that discovery for all of you? It's right here, right now. If you don't encapsulate, if you don't interpret, if you don't judge, what is your discovery right now? If you're forced to communicate about it, then what is it you can say? You can say, I am. You see, you may say, I am here, or I am aware of even I am. You see? But that's only if you're forced. You see? If you're forced by your master to say, tell me, what is it you're finding? Yeah? Then to just point to that discovery. But even those words don't actually capture any reality. Okay, someone who's new, we'll come to the ones that have been here for a while in a bit. I see the raised hands, but I just want to talk to those who are a bit new. One says there is a jump that describes by Kundalini Yoga from third chakra, where there is intellectual clarity, peace, to the crown chakra, where there is nothingness. What needs to be done for it? What if your starting point, you see, was that which encompasses all of this? You see? And if you let go of the trying, if you let go of the attempts, then effortlessly what needs to open up just opens up. And Bhagwan has spoken about this very clearly. He said that many who are doing self inquiry, they find that this whole energetic system seems to open up for them sometimes. You see? And how does it happen? Without any such intention, without any such goal. So that which comes and goes, or that which can come and can go, if you keep that aside for a moment, just a moment, you can pick it up again. Then in that, what is missing, what needs to happen? That nothingness or nothingness, isn't that your very natural state? If you let go of the mind's ideas about, but it can't be that simple, you see, how can it be that easy? People are trying for hundreds of years, sitting in caves and doing various practices. You're saying, even the three was for effect. Even the one is for effect. It's just be something before you hear the click. Don't be nothing before you hear the click. Is it? Is it? So notice the one that grasps at the discovery post facto. You see, that one is not your reality. That one is the one that is the grasper, the mind. You see, which wants to make the seeker into an awakened being, which is never what happens. It is not the seeker that becomes the free. You see, it is that the seeker is let go of, and the free one is found as the ever present. So, what is your attempt? You see, for all of you, what is your attempt? Is it to succeed? Is it to make enough progress in this? Can you progressively make yourself into the unchanging? Which is a contradiction. If you could progressively make yourself into the unchanging, then you would not be the unchanging. You see? So it must be an intuitive discovery, a non perceptual discovery, because everything in perception is changing. You see? Of the reality, and a letting go of the one that is changing, the one that has progressive steps. You see? And that is progress. It's funny this question came because for one in the Sangha, um, this kind of thing happened spontaneously just the other day. This kind of thing happened just spontaneously just the other day. And I got a call from her saying that this has happened, but I didn't want this. You see, I didn't ask for this. You see, and it's a bit troublesome actually because it gathers all my attention, and I want to be empty. I didn't ask for this. So then with her, I had to have the opposite conversation saying, it's grace, it's prasad, it's auspicious. You see, welcome it, enjoy it. It's not going to get in your way in any way. You see, whatever has to show up will show up. If you let go of our false doership, our individualized idea of doing and not doing. Which way is the sun? Is it to the left or the right? Huh? Which way is the sun? We have to say that it depends. It depends on where we locate ourselves. You see, so depending on where you locate yourself, you can say, oh, it's to the left, or it's to the right. You see, now it is the same for everything phenomenal, everything relative. The answer is also relative. The answer is also relative. So, for some, the answer may be yes. If you are clear, you want to awaken your Kundalini, and that's what you want, then there are enough pranayamas and all the yogic practices are very well described and defined. You see? So, devote yourself completely to that practice. For another, you may feel like Kundalini for you is a stepping stone to where you want to get to, which is ultimate freedom or to the absolute discovery of the self. You see? So then I would say, hey, can we look at the self first, and then if Kundalini needs to happen, it can happen. You see? So it depends. Another could just want to achieve a lot of selfish desire through this kind of energetic awakening. They want siddhis, or they want just a materialistic experience of bliss all the time, or something like that. For them, a master could say, you let go of this selfishness, because divinity and selfishness don't go hand in hand. You see, you just let go of all of this, they renounce all this desire. So there's no real answer for a question like this. In the kind of expression that we are used to sharing, the pointing is always to that which is beyond all experiences, all perceptual experiences. But it is not in opposition to anything that has to arise or not arise. But there's not so much feverishness about the achievement of that. Good. One says, Namaste Ananta-ji, seek your blessings always with you, my dear. I like this kind of request, it's much easier. Because many times it is seek your blessings for this. And we never know. Um, uh, like, I've had situations where, please, Ananta-ji, may I please have your blessings? I'm starting this new relationship. You see? And then 2 weeks later, the same one comes and says, please, Ananta-ji, please, may I have your blessings? I have to be free from this relationship. So, you can never say for the for. So many times we just say, my blessings are with you for the most auspicious. You see? Whatever is the most auspicious, may that happen. But that's like saying that you see, what is going to happen is always grace anyway. So okay, let's hear what Shiv has to say.
Hello, Father. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, okay. So I seem to have invested belief in some mental representation, and I'm beginning to think that there might be some truth to it, and I wanted to share it with you. And it was something like this, that I was writing that blog that I sent, that blog post. So I'm
Right.
writing something else, and this had to do with the relationship between mental representations and reality. And I was arguing that mental representations belong to an internal realm called mind, and reality is an external realm. And then I went about critiquing it by putting forward another view, which was Kant's view, Immanuel Kant. He says that everything that, I mean, in the
The thing
previous
in
view,
itself.
what is the thing in itself thing? Yes. In the previous view, the demarcation, the border between the internal and the external is the body. Anything within the body is internal, anything external is reality. But according to Kant, it's like everything that the so-called external is also you know filtered through the mind. And just as wearing glasses changes your perspective, similarly the sense organs and the mind, they also alter reality in ways which we can't say. So to him, everything observable is internal, and what is external is unknown, unaccessible. And then I came to the Advaita view. I didn't call it Advaita, I said idealism, and one school of it. And according to that, we just do away with the external reality concept and say that everything is mind, and there is no mind independent reality. And when I was arguing like that, then suddenly I felt that everything is internal to me, and everything is within me, but that within the mind rather. and it's like it's been there for some time, but I'm not sure whether this is the discovery that you talk about, or whether it's too mental. So I wanted to ask you this.
The interpretation, of course, is always mental because the discovery is far beyond any such interpretation. Because it may sound real, but actually it's very absurd, no? What we can represent it as. When we see, the moment we say everything is within me, then there is no concept of within and without left.
Yeah.
You see, can we say everything is within me and still have a without? That is absurdism, no? That is just pure nonsense. Even to the intellect, it doesn't make sense. You see, so at best, even these, you see, so whether you go with Hume or Kant or any of these guys, Hegel, all of their philosophies, the point is that at best, and if you see their later writings, especially somebody like Nietzsche, you will see that by the end he was coming to similar conclusions as we are coming in Satsang, which is that no matter how we try to put it, the truth of what is can never be encapsulated in representation. So, if you read, for example, Beyond Good and Evil by Nietzsche, you will see that he's saying the same thing. You see, that go beyond those conceptual representations because it's not captured, and he's talked about all forms of philosophy there as well. And he basically blown the Kantian view to bits. He's taken Hume to the cleaners. He's all of that. You see. But then what happens is many times then because in philosophy what can happen is that the whole game is to sort of make a proposition and to debate that proposition and convince everyone that that is reality. Then what happens is that sometimes the greatest philosophers also get into the trap of saying that okay, but I'm truly certain that I can't say anything certainly. You see, which is again absurd, isn't it? So 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 my advice to you it would be that don't make a like a strong attempt to become a philosopher. Let whatever philosophy has to show up through your mouth, through your hands, they show up, and accept that as a pointing to your true insight, to your true discovery. But don't use that as a limiting condition. That and don't be so attached to it because you know what happens with every philosophy, isn't it? After a period of time it gets blown to bits by newer philosophers. Then some newer philosophers will come and say no, he was right actually. So people are still debating whether Socrates and Plato were right, you know. And there comes a generation which says oh all wrong, then another generation comes and say oh they were all right, then they're all wrong. So don't get caught in that roller coaster. And the same thing has happened in Vedanta and Buddhism and all forms of philosophy, because in no proposed notion is what I have found and what you are finding capturable. You see, is not capturable because we may say nothingness, emptiness, and yet it is the ultimate I, ultimate self. You see, so all of these at best can point, no, but in reality, what are we saying? How can empty be all there is? And yet that is your very discovery.
I don't know about empty being all there is, but it's like a dream, na? Everything that happens, there are living things, non-living things, autonomy, free will, good, bad, and laws of nature, all of that, and yet it could all be internal.
No,
This
no,
much
wait.
is
So
there, but about
are you saying that you're buying into all of this categorization, or you're saying that all these categories have been proposed and then disposed of, and then proposed again, and then disposed of again?
no, I've been. It's
Like
more like I'm arguing.
the Aristotelian view of living and
Hmm,
non-living, and then categorizing things as sentient and non-sentient, and all of this has been proposed and disposed of many times in the history of philosophy, isn't it?
yeah. No, what I'm trying to get at is all these categories. Okay, they are fine by themselves, but what is reality? I mean, do they?
Yeah.
Is there some correlation between reality and these concepts? And when you pursue reality, then you have to cross this obstacle or this roadblock about internal and external. And so if you come to the point that everything is internal, is it the same pointing that is, I mean, is this characterization of everything being internal or the discovery that I talk of, it seems like an intellectual one. Is this it? I mean, I'm more concerned about realizing the truth than about, becoming a philosopher or, all of that. So I've come to some kind of insight. I don't know whether this insight is the
No.
same insight you talk of, or is it too intellectual?
So the insight that you have, you see,
Yeah.
is your proposition in terms of what it implies or the meaning of that insight. Is it purely conversational, or do you feel like it's a pointer, or do you feel like actually it's a very valid representation of my discovery?
That's the thing. I actually feel it's a valid representation. So I need to
Okay,
be
say
shook
it
out of
again.
it. Or
What is the valid representation of your discovery? What is the
the valid
proposition?
representation, everything is internal. There's only mind, and there's
But do
nothing
you
beyond it. No,
You see, that sounds a bit like what you would call solipsism, but
yeah,
but and solipsism actually, if you're going to become a philosopher, don't become a solipsist because people deny the solipsist more than anybody else, right? So the point is that do you see the absurdity in that everything is internal to myself, you see, and if then everything is internal to yourself, how can there be an internal anymore?
yeah,
You see? So how is it a
yeah,
valid proposition? Because you could then say everything is, because the boundary of internal and external is not there. Because if it applies to everything, then it no longer leaves anything out. No?
yeah. I agree with that. I agree with that's also part of this representation. That's what I meant. What you're saying, yes.
Yes. So it is these things. You see, when we try to represent these, like how do you represent both together? You see, that's why you'll realize that no matter how which way you cut it, you just words are unable to capture this. Like you want to say something that you have discovered, that there is nothing outside of you. You see, but then the idea of inside and outside is no longer relevant. You see, so then how do we say? Then when we start saying, then it starts sounding like satsang. No, we can just say everything just is, or is not even
Yeah,
everything, because the thinginess of it we have not confirmed, no, that there is a substance or a thing besides the one thing which is my witnessing or the observing of it, that we are never able to confirm, isn't it? So look at the Descartes view, you're never able to really leave anything undoubted except your very existence, except your very awareness of even the doubt. You see, everything else is doubtable, isn't it? So the thinginess of everything we can't really confirm also. So then, as you start removing things which you can't really confirm, then you start seeing that your words become very much like satsang. Then you're saying, isness just is. Because you can't say everything anymore. You say, what is just is, or isness just is. And then you come to the same pointers. You see? That we share in satsang. But it's a good. I feel like it's a good attempt. You're going at it in a very scientific way, which I respect in a way. So keep looking at it, but don't settle. Don't settle, because if the minute you say, I feel like I'm getting a valid representation, then question every aspect of it. Don't get attached to the baby that you deliver through the mind, no? So don't get attached to that, and really question and say, when you say everything, what does that mean? Is there more than one thing? Is there one thing? How can I confirm the multiplicity or the oneness of things? You see? So even your starting point, everything is internal. Then you can come to is and say, what is is? You see, what is is? What does it mean to exist? Philosophers have been grappling with that question forever. You see, metaphysics they've been trying to do for centuries, and yet they don't have a valid conclusion about what actually is. You see, so what do we mean by everything is? Are we talking about an existent beingness, an existent existence? You see, and then especially when it comes to words like internal and external, then your statement itself is self-contradictory. No? So if everything is internal, then what you're saying is that there is no external. Then you don't need to say internal. So don't settle. That's what I mean by don't settle. Just keep deconstructing and don't let this the empty of words inside, which you are getting very organically through your inquiry, through coming to satsang. Don't that don't allow that to be scary in a way that you feel like you are lost without without being able to communicate what you discovered, what you found. You see?
Yes.
Because the idea is not really to be able to communicate it. You see, that may happen organically or not.
Hmm.
Good, but good
Thank,
contemplation.
thank you, Father. Thank you.
Okay, let's see what Niranjan is saying.
Uh, Hello,
Hello.
am I audible, Father?
Yeah, dear.
Namaste, Father. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
Uh, Actually, I wanted to ask something which sounds strange also and contradictory also. Uh, for last few days, not last few days, but last few weeks, I would say. Uh, uh, I am experiencing the same repetitive suffering, but in the early morning phases, like before just fully waking up, like half waking kind of, so it's like about, maybe I don't know, I'm not aware of the time, but maybe half an hour or an hour or so something. So those old patterns, the attachments, the old attachments which I used to suffer, they are coming up like in those half conscious kind of states.
Yeah.
And many a times inquiry also arise in those states, and there is like an attempt to be free from them in this dream kind of dreamy like state, where you are not fully awake, but um, so it feels like many a times, mind convinces me that I am again suffering from the same things. And um, and uh, that is one point. And second is, when I am faced with the similar kind of situations which I used to suffer, right? So when those situations come, like when many a times you say when the rubber hits the road, like, so that kind of situations, I tend to, I tend to, let's use the word forget, I tend to forget the my original self. And again, I go into those old patterns of thinking and feeling, those kind of, means that old pattern of suffering, let's say, in total. So uh, maybe I want to ask a practical solution, but you just, I'm using the words because I know you would say there's nothing like practical. So uh, it's not that I am not clear about the truth or reality. I have that clarity, but sometimes along with that clarity there is suffering. Both are present simultaneously. Many a times that also happens. So I just wanted, if you can say something about this.
Actually, the early morning thing is something that I used to notice often as well in the so-called spiritual journey here as well. That the mind seems to grab us first thing in the morning, no, and we are half asleep, just and there are many in the sangha like this. There's one sangha member who gets a serious anxiety thing early in the morning. Like I'll wake up in the morning and I'll see some 20 messages from them at 4 a.m., at 5 a.m. Coming, because that's what happens. The mind uses that opportunity before we are fully, you see, awake in that way. to really sell us the story that it has. So it's good. You spotted it. It's good to notice that. That's what it attempts to do. You see? And your noticing it itself is, of course, very helpful, because then next morning again you say, this is the mind's play. You see, it's morning time, I'm just getting out of bed, and this is what it's doing. And it may seem to grab us at this time, quite often. But the good thing is, and you're aware of this, is that the minute you come to your emptiness, the instant you come to your openness or clarity, as you call it, you see, so the coexistence of clarity and suffering is only when you make yourself linear, no? When you make yourself have a history of past, present, and future. But in that moment of clarity, all past, all this apparent suffering is gone, isn't it? Is it? Can you contain
Like,
the identification which you had 10 minutes ago? You see, just organically in this moment right now.
no, definitely not. Uh,
See, I can
but
sense a
many
but.
times,
So let me try and answer again more completely. Then the only way to represent or make that kind of report that I am both clear and suffering is to stretch yourself out in linear time and say, in the morning time this is my state, in the afternoon this is my state, in the evening this is my state. You see, then this is what happens. So we stretch ourselves out in that way, but that is the story of the mythical one. That is not the story of your reality. It is the story of your mind's reports about what your state is. So the instant you come to clarity means that instant you have left this universe of time and space. You see? And left means that you're no longer identifying with just an object within that time and space. You're looking at the entirety of this play of time and space as just an aspect of your existence. You see? So if you don't make that limited reference to yourself objectively, then this seeming idea of being completely clear and yet suffering at the same time, although it sounds very beautiful and zen to me as well, but the point is that that is not really our discovery, isn't it? Because now you're out of this, then the notion of suffering means that you're constricted. You see, as you let go of the notion of being objective in time and space, then the idea of suffering needs that initial objective idea first, isn't it?
correct. Hmm. What I meant by that, Father, was like there is suffering in the foreground, and yet at the same time there is peace. Peace or clarity in the background. So in that way, I meant that both are coexistent. So it's like
So let's break it down.
some of my remnants.
Can we break it down a bit more so that we are on the same page? So let's
Yes.
look at appearance. An appearance is not suffering. An appearance at best we can call pain, isn't it? Identification with that appearance is called suffering. You see, that it is happening to me, that this should not be what it is for me. That is called suffering. So appearances can be, you see, suffering is identifying with that. You see, and clarity is not identifying with that. And as we don't identify with that, we see that I am that substratum on top of which all of this play of appearances seems to play out. You see, so what I will admit is that in the non-identification also, any appearance can come. You see, but to make them into suffering, you have to use your head a lot. You see, you cannot suffering is not something organic that happens in the realm of appearances. You see, suffering needs a lot of mental work. Like pain can appear in existence, but to suffer you have to think about it. You see, and when you think about it, you see, that is what we call the absence of clarity anyway. You see, not that the reality of this goes away in any way, but we take that cloud of dust to be our real nature, and it seems like we forget our reality. You see? So if you are speaking about appearances appearing and they can appear, but we are talking about the absence of using conceptual thought to really represent them, then it is no longer, it is not suffering yet. You see? The minute you start applying yourself mentally to it, only that is suffering. You see? And in that, in that representation, when we buy into that identification, then it seems like the truth of what we are. It's no longer seems like it's always in the background and things that can just be a part of the representation again. So it seems to be forgotten, isn't it? That is suffering.
No, I would say, Father, it's not completely forgotten, but
Okay.
some sticky remnants of I that I used to take myself. Those sticky remnants, which are they are seen in the foreground, and which cause this suffering. And yet, I am not completely lost. You know, uh, so
Absolutely.
that kind of thing.
I feel like we're coming to the same page. So good. I have no disagreement with that. That sounds okay. Now, what is the antidote, right? What is the antidote to this? Now, suppose a patient comes to you and they say that I have uh, malaria or something like that. Give me the one pill that will sort it out finally. You see, and you will say, no, there isn't such a pill. You see, I will prescribe a plan for you. You see, so breakfast, lunch, and dinner have this pill. Along with that, that is the best that you can do. So the mind says, give me an antidote which is like forever. I want to be rid of it. Like you see, but the only antidote is that breakfast, lunch, and dinner you remain empty. You see? Remain empty. So so sometimes you'll forget the dose, and what will the doctor say? Okay, you forgot it. Now forget about the fact that you forgot it. Continue your dose properly now. You see, isn't it? The doctor will also say you can't go back into the past and change that. What can we do? You see, take your dose now. You see, then the patient will say, but oh, I keep forgetting it. You see, I keep forgetting it. You see, and the doctor will say, okay, you keep forgetting it. There's nothing we can do about that. You remember now, do it now.
It's the whole satsang conversation again and again.
It's okay. It's okay. You see? So it's good in a way. It's good in a way because it doesn't allow us to become arrogant, you see. It can feel like, um, uh, but I got it. And oh, it's back again. You see? But that got it guy can also be just a spiritual ego. So it's good for it to be, it's good for it to be dissolved in this way. Because many who are coming to satsang are having this experience of beautiful insight, and then they see, the mind comes back, and they're not suffering so much from the mind coming back, but they're suffering so much from the notion that I was meant to be free of this by now. You see, how could it come back? So they're suffering more from the concept that they should not be suffering anymore than from the organic notions which the mind is giving them. You see, so it's a one-two punch. You see, from the mind.
Yes, that's exactly what I am asking for, Father. Like, I want to be completely free from this suffering. That's what I am asking, and perhaps that is what causing more suffering. It's
That's it. That's it. You spotted it yourself. You see, the one that wants to be completely free from suffering is the voice of suffering itself, and it will say, "But I was there 3 weeks ago." You see, I don't want to come back to this, and it's a thief. You see, it's saying all of these things. It itself is causing the trouble, and saying that I want to be free from the trouble. In clarity, did you find that there was such a me who was the sufferer, but now there's a me left who is now free from suffering? Was that your discovery?
No, no, Father.
You saw
It
that.
cannot happen simultaneously.
You saw that. That
It's
means.
all or none. Like if you are on this side or on that side.
But that's a good point, and that's very valid. But I'm also saying that it is not as if there was a sufferer that now became free from its suffering. You see, it was just seen in that which we call clarity, that the notion of the sufferer itself was fraudulent and can be let go of. You see, so when we pick up the idea that I want to be completely free of my suffering, it is the pose of the sufferer which is completely non-existent, because you know very well that if I ask you who is that I, you will in a moment see that there isn't such a one.
Yes, Father. That's true, and it is also seen many a times here. But that is perhaps the toughest part here. What I feel to let go of that suffering identity. And many a times I see that although it says I want to be free from the suffering, it itself wants the suffering. Many a times it feels like that. It doesn't want to leave that suffering, and also it's saying I want to be free from the suffering. It's like that catch 22, what we say.
Yeah.
So that's also many
Dog
times it's
chasing its
spotted.
own tail. You see, the dog chasing its own tail and going
True,
round and
true.
round. So take the dose now. That's all we can do. Take a full 100 mg of emptiness. It'll resist. You see,
and f-
the mind resists the
and
simplicity
Father,
of the instruction, because what happens is the mind will use all the linear story about how there was a time where it was all clear, and then you don't want to go back to a time where it was all blurry and all of that. But all I'm saying is take the 100 mg of emptiness. You see?
And Father, what I also have noticed is this disposition, and this disposition towards the mind or intellect, like again and again, you try to see the world through that, like what you
Mhm.
say, don't play in the mental playground, that example that you give, that intellectual disposition again and again, you try to see from that point of view, or
Yeah.
you try to see from that sufferer point of view, so like a habit, like an habit, so that's also
To look
visible
at it, I like
here.
what you said, to try and look at everything through the lens of the intellect, you see, so that it can be assimilated, we feel, like in a digestible way by defining it in certain boundaries and constructs, you see. But the minute I ask you, tell me something which is true, you see, then because you've been in satsang, you will see that you cannot answer that question through the same intellectual box at all, and yet all the
True,
representations in
because
that box are proposing what they are saying is true.
there is no absolute truth there, because there are always thesis and hypothesis. You have antithesis for everything. So uh, it can play only into extremes, either this way or that way, or maybe in between, but it cannot play beyond that. So, and all those spectrums are relative. You can say they are relatively true, but perhaps there is no truth in them. It's just a way of looking at things.
We can never say something is relatively true. You see, at least from the paradigm of speaking that we share in satsang here. Because if it's
True, true.
relative, then it's relative. Because in Vedanta, we would define true as a non relative. No, it does not change, it does not come and go. So, relatively true is a contradiction in terms, and yet we have to use these terms to communicate and
True.
point. But nothing is absolutely relatively true.
Yes, conversationally true, maybe we can say. We use, actually, many a
Provisionally,
times I feel like
I like
provisionally. Many a times, I feel that we are very much stuck in the language. Actually, we have taken the language or the conversational things to be the truth, and perhaps that's also causes trouble. Like conversationally, we speak, I am talking to you, or I went there, and you take that I to be the truth. So you are stuck in the language, in the words.
Exactly. That is the human condition. Language. Language games. Wittgenstein called it language game. We're talking about all the philosophers today
Language.
because she reminded me about the philosophers.
True, true. But of course, when we ask, what do we know right now, which is absolutely true,
Yeah.
like what you are sure, 100% sure. Like right now, what I can say, I am not sure of anything, you know, and to the
Even that we're
maximum
not sure.
provisional, I can say that I exist.
Yeah.
Uh,
Even
th-
we're not sure that we're not sure.
Even I exist is I am not sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
True, true, very true. Even to say that I am or I exist is also not sure.
Yeah.
I am not sure of that.
Because we don't know what exist is. We don't know here in the mind
True.
what exists. You see, we definitely don't know in the mind what I is.
But the true I that we see, that cannot be spoken. You cannot put it into. It cannot be spoken. It maybe like you can point to it, but that's also far from it.
And that is what is missing in most philosophy, at least that I have found. This intuitive insight of the seeing without attention. You see, this discovery which is absent of perception or attention. This discovery of the self knowledge, of the true self recognition, you see, which is independent of all that can come and go, independent even of attention, which seems to be the light of all perception, isn't it? So we can say that something is perceived when the light of attention is on it, you see, or we can say there is no distinction between perception and attention, you see. But this self, you see, it doesn't matter where attention is. You see? Attention could be on anything, but self knowledge is independent of that. And that's why I want to steer this conversation a bit back to this pristine self discovery. This pristine self discovery. So what are you able to discover without having to use attention? For all of you, you see, what is your discovery without needing any tool whatsoever? So you don't have to even divest your attention from the phenomenal. Trying to bring your attention into the non-phenomenal is an absurd statement anyway. You see, because the minute we say attention is on it, it's objective. No, we've objectified it. So what is your discovery? And all of you can answer on chat, or you can raise your hand, because this is what I want to talk about or hear from you. What is your discovery which is without any conditions, without any tools, without any time, without any effort? Very good. Very good.
That's the whole point of satsang, father. That's the self, what you call.
Yeah, yeah. Very good. I'm getting a lot of beautiful responses on the chat as well. Very nice. It is
And even
important to
father
ask you all
in
this question because many times we talk about philosophy and things like that and everybody goes to sleep. So I'm happy to see that most of you are still awake and listening to what's happening. So it's good. Okay, my love. Thank you, thank you. There's some other
Thank you,
question.
Father.
Thank you so much, my dear. Thank you. The one says, Anantaji, I lowered my hand because Niranjan exposed what I was going to expose. What happens as I am transitioning from sleep to awake in the early morning? I see the mind playing right away as soon as I awaken. It's all caught up in these old habits I'm not even invested in. It's just so loud. Then I see the checker guy trying to get rid of the noise. I know it's the checker guy because it feels like effort. It's clearly seen. It's seen because I am here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Very good. Now the checker guy, the checker guy is my arch nemesis. No? Is my arch nemesis. Is the Joker to my Batman. So how is it the arch nemesis? Because many times, and in fact always, if you're able to represent it this way, that even to say it is the checker guy, it is the checker guy. Ah, see, that is the checker guy playing up. Who is that? That's the checker guy. You see, that's the most sneaky nemesis we have in satsang. You see, because it'll take everything that it hears, even the notion of the checker guy will use. You see, so the only way out of this game is 100 mg of emptiness. Because there's no concept that the checker guy cannot use. It will use all the spiritual concepts also to to make a report about the non-existent you. Let's see. Well, let's see if you can come up. I'm happy to hear from you.
Namaste, Anantaji.
Namaste, my dear. Namaste. Can you share fresh again? Something?
Yes, and all week between satsangs, questions arise, and I'll ask you questions during the week, and then this morning, this happened where, as I'm waking up, like I'm just waking up to so much mental chatter, and I can see the one who doesn't like the chatter, who wants to get rid of the chatter, and then it's like self inquiry. It's like comes in like a steamroller. It does not feel peaceful. Like, okay, who's making all this noise? Who's doesn't like this noise? Like, it's like part of the habit. It's like the inquiry becomes mentalized, and to be able to see that, and then there's okay, I can feel constriction in the chest while this is going on as I'm waking up, and there's some kind of knowing, like, this is all it. This is all unfolding. And whatever, like, I just know, like, I hear you, like, this is not it. This is, and somehow just to be able, I can't really put words into it because I'm sort of still in a half sleep, and just to know, like, okay, I'm here. And it doesn't feel particularly, it's not like even that it's a relief. It's not even so much that it goes away. But maybe there is a little bit of relief. Maybe there's just a little bit, like, I can't do any, I don't even know what to do about it because I'm half asleep. There's nothing to be done.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, and just exposing that, like, if this is to go on, and it can go on, and I just felt to expose it, to say that this happens.
Yeah. Yeah. This is good. This is good. So like I was saying, that the only antidote is right now. No? The only antidote is right now. So, we can't ever truly say that this is what happens anyway. But in this construct, it's good to share a report like this, but the solution to all ailments in satsang is emptiness, is remain in the unborn, you see. And not then, because you can't go back to early morning and say, okay, you see, it's only right now. It's only right now. This is a very important tip which I keep mentioning to everyone, that uh, don't try to fix it for a past you or a future you. You see? Just fix it for yourself right now, which means what? Remain empty, remain in the unborn right now. The past is over, it's finished anyway. For future, the future Sadguru presence will take care of the future. You see? Allow yourself to remain empty of all of these ideas of past and future just right now. You see? How do you know anyway that it is the same you that woke up this morning? What is common between that you and this you? It's just imagery from a storehouse that we call memory, isn't it? A repository of seeming past experiences that show up and they say this is what happened, you see? And how much can we trust those images? They're they're completely doubtable. You see? And their purpose is that the mind will interpret them and make a linear story about yourself, about you, that is so much beyond linear time. It will insert you as if you are a character in this time based thing, and convince you about your objective nature. You see? The you for whom this happened, you see? Where is that one now?
It's just thoughts.
It's just thoughts, isn't it? And we can't even say that actually it is in my half awake state. It could have just been a dream. What's the difference anyway? And the idea is not to say that it was a dream or it was not like this or it didn't happen. The idea is just to loosen up our our conviction that this is what happened, and especially the idea that it happened to me. In this moment, you see, in this moment, you're empty of all of that, and you're in the presence of your own being. You see? Then the even if you give credence to the concept of linear time now, because in this moment you are so deeply immersed in the presence of your being, we can just be grateful for everything that has happened in the past that seemingly got us to this moment. You see? There are many ways to look at everything, many ways to look at everything, and if we are not able to come to a place where we are able to look at it from no position, positionlessly, or from the unborn, at least we can play around with the representations a bit and see how we can put some gratitude and beautiful things into the representation. And it is possible for every story. There is no story that can play out existence, you see, which is so compelling that we can't be empty about it. But if that seems tough, there is no story about the past that we cannot be grateful for. And all of you can experiment with this. You can take up our most horrific sounding story and really see, if I was to look at this through the lens of gratitude, can I? And you say, yes, you can. Because even to be in that position where you can ask yourself this question, you see, is you must be grateful for everything that got you there. It's so nice, no? In the sense that it's like a huge bucket of Play-Doh, this universe. We give it all this shape, and then, like children, we also give it the representations that we want to. And the game of suffering is that we start disliking our own representations and say, this should not be like this. And somehow that seems to give some fire to this game, which is fine. You see? But then the Play-Doh representation of a master can come. Who says, but you're looking at it this way, my child, and crying about it, but you can also look at it this way. You see, also look at it this way. And then you yourself realize that nothing in itself has a true representation. It's all the representations that we make about it. Like I was saying to someone the other day, that if you were told that you wake up tomorrow and you must experience a lot of pain or a lot of suffering, you see, and if you experience a lot of suffering for those 15-20 minutes, then you will be free forever. Our expectation will be to experience that suffering, and we'll make it very difficult for ourselves to experience suffering then, because when we are anticipating it, you see, and we are open about it, it's really a struggle to suffer, because it's the opposite. Openness is the opposite of suffering, isn't it? You see? So we may suffer from the non-suffering. I have gone too far now. Let me come back. Like Guruji says beautifully, no? Nothing in the world has inherent meaning. It's always the meaning that we give to it. Suppose we say, if my mind is super active in the morning and it fires all its shots in the first 10 minutes, then it'll leave me alone for the rest of the day. That's not a bad deal. You see, there are hundreds of ways to look at the same thing. Very good, very good. Then one says, I like what you say. No notion, thought, or belief is greater than being. The mind still wants something to grasp, even if it is subtle, yes. So everything needs to be disregarded constantly. Even this. Even this. Because this is also an idea in time. You see? Also, the one who disregards needs to be disregarded. Yes, very good, but even this. It still feels mental and like it's a process. Exactly. Good. Good. You spotted it. It's good. Let me be open, beyond open. Very good. And allow grace to move through this being. Very good. Let grace take over. You see? Beautiful, but even this, although it sounds very holy and beautiful, grace is already in charge. How can grace take over? I cannot do this. Everything, everything, everything. I know we've all heard this in Satsang and it's beautiful words, but now we come to a place where everything has to go, everything has to go. You see? Even the conclusions about the mind, you see, like my mental processes do not work, is also just a mental representation. You see? Come to full nakedness, full openness. You see? And even beyond the words. Very good, but very good. Very happy, very happy. One says, Beloved Pa, I am using my head a lot, suffering this morning thing, acha. Then trying to fix it, justifying, troubling is all the spiritual knowledge, acha. What is troubling me is all the spiritual knowledge I have picked up. Yes, 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 yes. Seeking your blessings to not fix or run away from this and trust the insight. Very good, very good. We've spoken a lot about this since the question was posted, but Of course, all my blessings are with you. Very good. Thank you. Father, what is the difference between awareness and attention? So I have an experiment for you. Um, Close your eyes, bring your attention to an image of a tree, also an image of a banana, and also make sure that you're clearly observing the next thought that comes to you. The tree must be very clear, not blurry. The banana must be very clear, not blurry. And also the thought that comes must be completely clear. Who can do that? Nobody can do that. You see, nobody can do that because attention in its nature is limited. You see, the minute we start to say, I'm going to really look at an image of imagination clearly, or this imagination which we call external world clearly, then you cannot look at something in front of you, you see, and think a thought completely clearly and keep your attention on that, you see. And for most parents, of course, we know if you have more than one child, we know how attention is so limited, because when both the children or more than two children are asking for attention, we have to tell one to shut up, no? So so we realize that attention, although has a lot of similarities, so I know where the question is coming from, can seem to have a lot of similarities because it is colorless, it is shapeless, you see. But the fact is that I call it the phenomenal twin of awareness. I call it the phenomenal twin of awareness, and the only way to gauge that it is phenomenal is to see that it is limited, as opposed to my awareness, you see, which it doesn't matter how many perceptions are coming and going, I never run out of awareness, you see. I only seem to run out of attention, and awareness doesn't seem to have any boundary or limitation. Uh, and But attention seems to have that. So you can experiment with this a bit, and it'll become clear to you. And then you can ask yourself this question: who is my attention reporting to? You see, who is my attention reporting to? You can experiment with this question, and finally, you can also experiment with this question: what can I find without having to even use my attention? Independent of where attention may be, is there a discovery which is apparent to me? So beautiful, good contemplation questions. One says, Father, as I follow the invitation to freedom, I started perceiving the subtle imagination of the self I was having in my earlier invitation meditations. So even though I could acknowledge that there is a seer, I cannot say anything about it. I felt like I hit a roadblock. Okay, is that the end of the report? Okay, I'll just speak to you in a minute, my dear. I'll just come to you and just catch up with the rest of the chat for a moment. Um, One says, the mirror of satsang, even without words, is a direct way out of this ongoing need of self questioning, doubting, and confirming. Yes, it is not conceptual, but experiential by the grace of the actual presence of the Master that we do not doubt. Very beautiful report. Very beautiful. Very good. Very good. Father, there was a constant process going on. What may I ask or write to Ananta? It has vanished and silence has remained. Wanted to share because I was not aware. It has taken so much space and it sustained the eye. Yes, yes. Very good. Very good. Thank you. Very nice. One says, amazing Anantaji. Thank you, my love. So grateful for these interactions and your responses. Thank you. Thank you. Then one says, what is checking in as Guruji says. That is how to leave check a guy behind while checking in. Acha, acha, acha. Oh, we can look at this a bit. Um, so when we say, let's use the term contemplation for a moment. You see, in the world, if you ask somebody to contemplate, most of the world will think about it. You see, when they say, in my contemplation, this is my discovery, it's mostly that they thought about it for some time, and they looked at the thoughts that came, and went through the process of thinking. Now, in satsang, when we say contemplate or check in, we are saying just look. You see, but that just look also is a confusing statement, no? Because how to look? So one way to look is with our attention. You can look. Ah, this is in front of me. This is seen. You see, this is seen. So I cannot be this. So we can do a niti niti with our attention. No? Not this. I cannot be this because it is seen. I cannot be this because it is seen. You see. So this is as far as attention can go. We can look at all that is perceivable. So it can be the vibrant universe to going within, then you see the body sensations, the emotions, you see the pain, the pleasure, all of these sensations. Then you may come to even the sense of presence of being. You may feel like attention goes there, and then you see there is nowhere for it to go. At best, it may just look at like an empty perception, like a dark empty space. And because that is the limitation of attention, that it can go to that extent, many times the mind will interpret attention going to this dark empty space as a discovery of awareness, you see, which is not it actually. You see, so but that is as far as attention can go. You can look at all of these possible perceptions. You see, now when we say, what do you find without your mind, or are you aware now, or who is aware of your existence, or like as I say, are you aware of this, who is aware of the perception of this hand? You see, now instantly, which is not even an instant in time, there is a recognition which is independent of attention. You see, independent of attention. You don't need attention to move from anywhere to anywhere to make the determination that it is I that is aware. You see, so this is the most beautiful contemplation. You see, so we've gone from like a mental contemplation to a looking, which is using attention and being able to determine that this cannot be it, this cannot be it. You see, to that which is independent even of attention, and yet we sometimes call it a looking or a seeing or an insight. You see, so it's good sometimes to deconstruct these, because many times spiritual seekers can get stuck in the first two. You see, they can get stuck in trying to figure it out mentally, that I just am not able to determine what is myself or convince myself about myself. Secondly, I'm not able to bring my attention to myself. I'm not able to have the. How many of you feel like I'm not able to come to the experience of myself? You see, when will I come to the experience of myself? And that is just a simple fallacy, that you feel like yourself is going to be an experience that attention will bring to you. It's never going to be that. You see, and you may try many gymnastics to try and control your attention in various different ways, and have these ideas of inside and outside, and try to keep it on the inside. And many of you will then come to the determination that looking, coming to like a darkness, is your discovery of awareness. You see, but can it be like that? If all that the discovery of the self was just the same experience that you would have if you go into a room without lights, then we would just send you to a room without lights. Maybe that's why people used to go to the caves. Well, you see, but it can't be that, no? It's not an experience in that way. There is a non-phenomenal insight and non-phenomenal experience, you see, which is this immediate. You see, what brings you this clarity that it is you that is witnessing all of these perceptions, this voice right now? You see, do you have to focus your attention to back and look at who's really listening to these words right now? Is it me? Is it I? Is it I? No, you don't have to do that. It's apparent to you. You see, but because this discovery is so simple and so apparent and independent of any perception or conceptualization, we seem like we haven't got it, because to the mind that seems like the only way to come to a discovery, or these seem like the only ways in our head or in our perception. You see, that's why self discovery seems so difficult, because it is so simple. But you cannot do it through the wrong instruments. You cannot use the instrument of perception to come to the discovery of the self, and you cannot use the instrument of mentation to come to the discovery of the self. You see, and if you stop relying on these two instruments, there is no way that you can miss yourself. That's the master key. No? The instant you are not trying to see it, to think about it, what is there in that instant? You are. And this is clear to you. Even in those instances where you are trying, it is you, but that doesn't seem as clear then. You see? So, in your notionless existence, you see, not only is the manifest, like Bankai said, all things are perfectly resolved, and obviously he's talking about resolution in the realm of the manifest. There is no problem in the unmanifest. You see, so not only is the manifest completely fine, but also your self-discovery, your self-knowledge, Atma Jnana is completely apparent to you. You see, so it's super simple. But what doesn't seem simple in the human condition is to drop our effort to understand or to visualize, perceive. And if just this part of satsang went into you today, you will save yourself many lifetimes of struggle trying to find yourself. Okay, good, good, good. One says, seriously, Father, phenomenal twin of awareness? Please admit that you have invented the term to drive the seeker crazy. Everything I invent is for that. Is to drive your thinking mind completely out of it. Very good, very good. Okay, one says, okay, it's a long one. Let me have some water before that. Before I jump into that, actually, can I put this into gallery, and if you can raise your hands if there was some resonance with what I just said, because that is very, very important. You see, that's very, very important. If there's some resonance with what I said about not trying to get it here or try to have a perceptual experience of it, and to come to the apparency of just the simplicity of this natural insight, you see, if there was some resonance with that, I'm very happy. I'm very happy, because this is the point that needs to be emphasized, and it takes the path out of this journey. You see, the all the long-winded struggling and suffering through the journey, because the suffering in this spiritual seeker is only because we are using the wrong tools to discover the self. You see, using a thermometer to measure the size of space. And then what do? We say, 98, very nice. You see? Oh no, today 100. You see? But what are you measuring? You're measuring at best the byproducts. You see, the byproducts, phenomenal byproducts. You see? Like we were saying last time, and that is a good metaphor, I feel. You're saying that don't go with what the dog is smelling. You see, so if the dog is attention and a lot of content is coming in front of your attention, so let's call it the dog is smelling these things. Don't go with the smells the dog is getting. Go with who is the owner of this dog. Discover that. You see? And the dog cannot discover that. It is only the owner that can discover itself. So your attention cannot go. So don't try to contain the content of the smell, only take it to rose gardens or something like that. That won't help. You see? Stop being concerned about the smell so much and see who is the owner of this dog. That's very important. And I've explained to you that you cannot see in traditional ways of seeing, which is perceptual seeing or conceptualization. How many of you feel that without conceptualizing or perceiving, you are lost? Anyone feel that way? Be honest now. Okay, good. Good. Because that is the fear, no? That is in a way the primal fear. You see? Because you feel like if I cannot rely on my concepts, and now you're saying don't even rely on my percepts, you see, my perceptions, then what do I have left? You see? But trust me on this one. I ask for your trust only on this one. Everything else I will explain to you. You see? But on this one, I ask for your trust. Trust me and let go of your reliance on perceptions and conceptualization. You will not regret it. You will not be lost. You will be found. Okay. Okay, let's read this report. Pranam, Father. First thing, I would like to thank you with all my heart for showing me what it is to be. Very good. A few satsang back, I had this moment, a glimpse of truth, I guess. I am not sure how to describe that into words, but for like a fraction of a second, I was me. Again, I am not sure how do I describe it. Very good. I have a very good sense of what you're saying. Very good. But not sure how do I describe it, but it had a huge impact on how I see things. All I know is just that it was amazing, and I had never been like that before. Very good. You showed it to me very easily, which I have never been able to see before. The only problem now is that I am not sure how to persist with that. Not sure how to persist with what I had in that moment. I have tried, but no matter what, I am not able to get it back. You see? Now, in a way, I answered the question before the question. I just answered it. Just now, what we spoke about is exactly the answer to this. You see? How to do it? You cannot do it in this effortful way of trying to perceive it or bring it back in that way. You see? You cannot do it by thinking that I have to do it, I have to get it back. You see? Just remain empty, independent of any such effort. I have tried, but no matter what, I am not able to get it back. I kind of have memory, or I don't know a little bit of that feel, but I cannot be in that state again. You see? Can you please guide me on how can I persist with it always? I think to put it in better words, how can I always be? It happens for most of you in a way. I've had these experiences where you notice that that which you call me, you can no longer find. You see? There's an absence of any impediment to being. I can feel like, for the first time, I'm just being. I'm just being. It can feel very freeing. You see? Very freeing. Now, the thing is that there are pros and cons to everything phenomenal, no? So the benefit is that you can compare what your discovery was and you can see how it matches everything that is said in satsang, everything that is said in the scriptures, that in your reality, you see, there is nothing changing, nothing comes and goes, there's nothing, you see, there's no distinction, all of that you can verify, you see. But the con is that you think that it is something that happened to you and now you have to get it back, you see. So the spiritual experience then becomes a benchmark, or like you said, a state that you have to regain. And I want to shake that out of you so that you don't trouble yourself with it anymore. Because I can tell you that fresh God is always worth more than stale God. You see? It may be the most, in your memory, the most pristine experience you ever had, but nothing is as pristine as fresh God. Your fresh being is here. Fresh consciousness, fresh God. You see? Nothing is greater than that. Nothing was ever greater than that. It is just your mind using your memory to put you in this sort of state of wanting, of desire. You see? So let go of that from that perspective and meet yourself now. Nothing true comes and goes. Your memory of what happened, as glorious as your mental interpretation may be, is always insipid compared to right now. And this is for all of you, because many of you beat yourself up like this. That 2 years ago I had this, 2 weeks ago I had this, last satsang I had this experience. You see? And in one way, these, so what we call awakening experiences, are very beautiful. But then these very same experiences can also become your new trap. You see? How many are chasing experiences that they had years ago? Forget about it. Not worth it. Yourself. You see? You know very well that it is the unchanging self. So how could it only have been in the past? How could it have been a state? The self is not a state. It is that in which all states come and go. You see? So although I can relate to it because it can seem like a very pristine experience that we had, many times it can just prevent us because we keep looking for that. Maybe this was meant to be even more pristine. But you're missing this for that. You see? So let go of it. Let go of all expectation to have that, and all meaning your mind is attached to that. Because here and now, this is it. Thank you. Thank you. One says, I hear you and what you said. And the mind is screaming inside, cramping and so on. Yes. It will fight with all its might. And it's okay. It's okay. You continue to be in satsang. You see, it's just the withdrawal symptoms, going from the limited way of existence to a broader way of existence. You see, the seller of the limited is obviously going to fight. You see? It's okay. One tip I have for all of you that seem to be undergoing a bit of this, that you can feel like the mind is screaming a lot, and what should I do? You see, don't try to juggle both or manage both. You see, just pick a side for a bit. Just pick a side, because what can happen is that it can seem very big. If there's some expectation that something or the other will come from the mind which is going to represent the truth in some way, and it is going to help me, you see, and then you try to manage a bit of that and a bit of satsang, you see, so then you feel like you're getting all confused, and you see, there's a lot of thing happening. Once you let go of all expectations from the mind, of it delivering any sort of truth to you, like Guruji says, it's your interest that gives it life. What does that interest mean? That interest is just an expectation that something true may emerge from it finally. You see? But I can tell you it's not going to happen. You see? The truth is not conceptualizable. It is not going to be able to represent the truth, no matter how hard the mind tries. So as you let go, then you will see that although it seems to be loud, you see, as compared to the spaciousness of your being, it is not a patch on it, it's not a small insect also on it. You see? And then we don't have to, once it is accepted, then we don't have to use these derisive terms for the mind, because that's also ultimately an aspect of consciousness itself. Okay, quickly, I'm going to get to the rest. Ananta-ji, thank you. While my body seems to show some constrictions, my mind is lost and does not understand what you are saying. Good. If your mind was understanding what I'm saying, then tomorrow I'll only have to clean that understanding up. You see? I will only have to empty it. So don't understand what I'm saying. Let your mind be lost. Let the body be constricted. How is your state? Or let's not even call it a state. How are you? How are you going to represent yourself? As the confused mind, as the constricted body, or is there another way that you can represent yourself? You see, not in an imagined way, but from your looking. You see? So contemplate that, because we get so used to our representation coming from the state of the body or the state of the mind that we miss the greatest aspect of our being in that way. Dearest Father, many thanks. Since I met you last week, there has been an opening and felt so much grace. I know now what to do with intrusive thoughts and any thoughts. If at all I need to do something, then it is to not pay attention to any thoughts. I clearly know that this understanding will give me everything, both worldly and spiritual. Did I promise all this? No. Okay. Okay. It's the core of the teachings. Okay. Thanks a lot, Father, and thanks to the Sadguru. I'm not laughing at you by any means. I'm just wondering whether this is what the conversation was. Please bless that I'm able to use this clean up stick until necessary. If at all there is something to do, it is just to not pay attention to any thoughts. Yes. Well, if that comes naturally to you, that you're able to divest your attention from the mind, then by all means. What I noticed in the spiritual seeming journey here is that my attention was pretty wild, it was a crazy monkey. So the more I tried to control it, the more rebellious it would get. So I found in this experience that to work with surrender, to work with belief was a lot easier. You see? So you need both attention and belief to suffer. No? I'm going to share the ATM example after a long time today. So, but you need both of those to suffer, or to take yourself to be limited. You see, so for me, it is okay if my attention is on a thought. You see? It can go with a thought, but unless I take it to be real, unless I take it to be about me, it does not cause any trouble. So that Zen example of let all thoughts as visitors come and go, don't serve them tea, seem to be a simpler instruction for this one to follow, but we cannot generalize it. For some of you, it may be easy to withdraw your attention and to keep it centered on your sense of being, or to be centered on a mantra or something like that. Some of you may find that easier, but really mostly I'm saying surrender or let go. You see? Don't attach so much to these thoughts. Even if attention is going on them, it's fine. You see? So how many of you, many of you are new, no? So when I started sharing satsang, I used to constantly talk about the ATM. The ATM machine is the anytime misery machine. You see? So all of us have access to this anytime misery. You see? And it's unlimited balance there. Unlike our physical money bank account, the ATM machine of anytime misery is unlimited balance. So how do you withdraw misery? Suppose the project was different. No? Suppose the project was not to come to truth, but you came to satsang because you're too free and you want to suffer. You wanted some misery because you're feeling too bored of all the freedom. You see, what would you have to do? So what you have to do is to go to this anytime misery machine, which is the mind. And how do you extract misery from it? First, you put in the ATM card. You see, what is the ATM card? It is attention to mind. ATM card. So you give your attention to the mind. You see, but in most countries, just putting the ATM card in will not give you the money. No? What else do you have to do? You have to punch in your PIN, personal identification number. I mean, there cannot be a better metaphor. The PIN is a personal identification, which is nothing but belief. You see, the minute you say, yes, what I'm giving attention in my mind to actually applies to me as my personal identity, that is, believe it to be real, believe it to be true, an unlimited amount of misery is available to us. But both steps have to be done. You have to give the attention to the mind and you have to identify. You have to punch in your personal identification. And this you is who, because this question will always come, is you as consciousness itself. All satsang is consciousness, speaking with consciousness. So mostly, most spiritual practices in the world and most spiritual paths in the world are about how to withdraw attention. You see, how to withdraw attention. So chant a mantra, do some other practice, keep mindfulness, whatever you may say. If you really explore this, you will find that most spiritual paths and practices are about how to not bring attention to thoughts. You see? But you will notice that if I say to you, don't think of orange, whatever you do, don't think of an orange. You see, it's going to come, no? Except if some of you are Maha Yogis or something, it's going to come. You see, so attention is a difficult monkey to manage. But if I say, don't imagine yourself to be the orange, it's much easier. So to divest, at least here I found, to divest identification, like Guruji says, don't identify, that seems a much simpler way. You see, it just needs some devotion, it needs some acceptance. You see. So that is a much simpler way. So even if you put in the ATM card, attention is going to the mind, don't plug in your identification, don't put in your belief. You see, and without belief, it cannot get you. You cannot suffer. We always found that this was a useful metaphor to share. Okay, last couple of questions I feel like I'll take. Dear Gurudev, as you are aware, in this journey with you as my Sadguru, surrender came easily. I know who this one is. Good. There has not been much attempt to understand or contemplate or anything like that. In hindsight, it feels like you had satsang in a language I didn't understand. Yes. I would have still led, it would have still led to this clear and simple seeing. That's how little there has been a mental or logical following of the pointings in satsang. Yes, that's the best. Except perhaps the most simplest of pointings, like don't believe your thoughts. What do you find without the mind, etc. Yes. And yet, when you say everything is resolved in the unborn, there is a clear intuitive understanding that is not mental, theoretical, or explainable at your feet, Gurudev. Thank you. Good to see you live for a change. Very happy, very happy. Very good. One says, Father, as you speak, I feel more and more like a small child that knows nothing. I don't know whether to laugh or cry. I still cling to gratitude. Is that okay? Or shall I jump? Huh? I didn't get the alternatives. Uh, I still cling. Oh, you mean you still cling to gratitude? And is that okay to cling to gratitude? Yes, yes, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's fine. That branch you can hold on to. It's fine. I rarely say stuff like that. One is asking about if anyone's from California. I'm sure there are a few in the Sangha. I'm not sure whether any are here today. Okay, last one. Let's see. Hello, Father, thank you. There's always a small voice at the back of my mind telling me that I have to be, and doesn't let my mind get through and being empty process. This small voice just does not even work on a regular basis. How to wipe out this juggling and shouting? Okay, at your feet. How to wipe out this juggling and shouting? This is the reason. It's been about 7 years since I started sharing satsang, and except for this time where there's been a lot of work, um, like the work in the body mind play of this one, there's been satsang almost every day. You see, because I realized the the conditioning that we have, and this voice's constant assertion about your limited identity. So many times I would, so when I started sharing, I would share once a fortnight, you see, and many times it would feel like at the end of satsang, I would look at everyone and I would say, wow, see how open, how empty, how free, you see, and then I would see them again after a fortnight and be like, at the beginning of satsang, you see? So then I felt like this has to be repeated a little more, so we started doing every week, you see, every week. Then what happened is that I started getting so many messages, and I felt like I have to answer every message in those days because it was still manageable like that. Um, then I felt that what we have to do is have a daily 1 hour session broadcast, and we used to use a tool called Ustream or something at that time, and that's how the sharing of online satsang started, where I felt like instead of answering questions all day, typing, if you could just meet everyone for during that 1 hour, it could then I could go about my regular work through the day. And that satsang which started for 1 hour, I remember when Jaya came. Jaya was here in the beginning. We used to be very like, she was sitting in front of me. She was the first one that came, at least from abroad, and she came and sat with me. But what used to happen is satsang used to start. I used to come dot on time, and the minute time was over, I would leave. I would like, bye, give you a hug, and then just go. No, it's only as time went on, then satsangs have become so long, 2-3 hours we sit and chat, and then after the broadcast is over, we just keep sitting around sometimes for a long time. So it all started because I noticed that the nature of the mind. You see, so what used to happen is that Monday to Friday used to be the satsang, and that's the deal I have with the family, right? So the weekends belong to the family, and then weekdays for a few hours every day I'm allowed to share satsang, allowed, quote unquote. So so what would happen is that on Friday when I was saying bye to everyone, I had this greeting that I had invented, which was have a concept free weekend. I used to tell everyone have a concept free weekend, and because I used to notice that many times on Friday it would seem like all these children, no, all the Sangha children are beyond anything that the world can throw at them. Anything, nothing can get them after one full day of satsang, a full week of satsang, 5 days. You know, but I would see them on Monday, and back again. So I realized that the 2 days, so many concepts, the mind will feed you. Like this child told me once, she said, Father, you're just too much. So when satsang gets over, I just have to give some space to the mind, because the mind says, okay, now you had your time with Father, you have to give me some time, and I have to indulge in it, otherwise it becomes very strange. So this is the way the mind plays. But what is the antidote to this? The antidote is just in this moment be empty. In this moment be empty. Come to satsang, and anytime that you're not in this physical sort of satsang, have your own satsang of emptiness. Okay. Thank you. I've read through all the messages. Let me read one from someone who's fairly new to satsang. Um, Father, there is tension in the body and personal identity, and I'm here to see it. But it feels as though I am something in between. Acha. Can you come? Can you come online? Let me see.
Hello.
Hello. I don't see you yet. Say some more.
Um,
It's a strange request.
Hi,
Yeah,
Ananta.
yes.
Sorry. Can you hear me and see me now?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
So you say that you see. Can you say fresh so that we don't have to refer to that report? You say fresh.
Yeah, you were speaking about this also in the satsang very often, so I felt to share. When I look, there's tension in the body, especially because of the satsang. It brings this tension up, and all the people who are like to be in front of other people, and
Yeah.
and so there's, as you said, in the ATM, there's this personal identity. Something is like thoughts, not about like thoughts which judge this tension and resistance, and then this personal identity is there, and it's seen, and this, because it's so strongly in the body, it feels as though I'm the one who can see it, and I'm apart from this whole happening. And at the same time, because it feels so strongly in the body, it's almost as if I'm still in between. I don't know if this makes sense, but
So let's look at that fresh now. So there's some stress in the body or some fear or something showing up, especially when speaking in front of an audience. It can feel like that, even on Zoom. No? So we can use that. We can use that in a helpful way. So notice that, and then when you say I am somewhere in between, what is the quality of this I that is perceived as somewhere in between? Like, does it have a color or a shape?
now that you're asking, it seems to be more like a thought itself. Um,
Good. So very good. So the thought is also seen. The thought is coming with the representation of something in between. You see, but now that you notice it as just a thought, now if you check and say the one that is witnessing this thought, where is that or what is that?
yeah, it's here.
So that which witnesses all of this, can anything come in the realm of appearances? You see, whether it is the tension, whether it is the thoughts or some other emotion, some pain, some pleasure, can any of this actually attack that which is witnessing all of this in any way? Can anything be that strong that it truly is able to attack this one?
No.
Nothing can touch it, nothing can disturb it. Sometimes I jokingly say, what can appear in this realm of appearances that can jump back into awareness and give it a slap? You see? So, if in this moment you are not identifying with anything other than that which needs no identifying with, but what is naturally seen as yourself, then what can be shaken? Like the stress that is there, the tension that is there, who is that tension shaking up?
I'm trying to find the one who's
Yeah. Yeah.
who's been shaken up, but it's more like this old idea, this old self-image, which I called myself for for a long time, and
That's it. That's it. So it's just the imaginary shape that has become our habit. No, we've learned through our parenting, through our mind, how to construct an imaginary shape for ourselves, and for that shape, everything practically, it seems like anything that comes can shake it up. You see, it can seem
yes,
like it easily shaken up. You see, now, but that shape is just a mythical shape. It is just a shape that we have constructed using our ideas, using our thoughts. That is what is called conditioning of vasanas. You see, the shape that is created through this mental thought processes, which can last sometimes many lifetimes, but we don't need to bother with that. So that is called the pool or the kosha of all the vasanas or all the conditioning. But once we see that which I can intuitively sense is my reality, which is just witnessing all of this coming effortlessly. And it's not possible in any way for this one to be shaken because it has no shape. You see, the more and more we come to this recognition, the less and less we feel like we will be shaken. You see, but don't make it a solid benchmark, you see, because you will trouble yourself with that. Your job is just to come to that recognition, and you will see that the idea of you having a shape will start to dissolve quite effortlessly. You see? And then the notion of shakiness will, the sensations will still show up, you see, or they may still show up, but it will not feel like you in reality are getting shaken. It's only sensations playing with other sensations, and that play is completely fine.
okay. You were speaking. I was still looking and can see that uh, this tension and the pain which is here, and because it's so strongly in the body, it's so easily believed that it comes from me, for a separate me, and yes, so
That idea will dissolve more and more.
yes.
And I've noticed also for many, we judge ourselves based on what is showing up. You see, we judge whether how spiritual we are being, or how open we are being, or how accepting we are being, based on these things. And the best is to just let it go. Don't make any judgment about yourself based on the content of the experience that you're having. You see, let all experiences come and go. You see, just meet them like space. Just meet them as empty space. Let them all come and go. You see, and don't say I am not being as open as I should be, or I should be more like this. You see, don't make any self-incriminating statements based on just this sort of evidence that shows up.
Okay, thank you.
Very good, very good, very good. Okay, my loves. I feel like I'm done. I'm done completely for the day, and I doubt there's anything much left to say because we've captured a lot of things today. No? Very good, very good. Only thing left to do now is play some nice bhajans. I can be your DJ for a bit, and then we can go. So requests you can post there if you like. You guys want to hear something? I'm not a very smart DJ apparently. I'm just the guy who plays requests. Let's see. Mm-hmm.
Can you play that
Acha?
Guru Gawana, the one we stay here before evening satsang? Muji Baba.
Evening Aarti? Evening Aarti? I should have it. I used to play it from my computer, but let's see. Ah.
Namaste. Savakete Jai Jai Ji Baba Ki Arati Sadaguru Ji Baba Ki Sadachi Danita Ananta Ki Arati Sadaguru Ji Baba Ki Shuddha Shankar Vaitari Trimurti Avar Mangaladhari Sharana Paramahamsa Maratha Prabhuti Parati Sadaguru Ji Baba Ki Sadachi Karita Ananta Ki Arati Sadaguru Ji Baba Ki
too much devotion for my computer. It's got stuck in the middle. You want to try again? That one. Is there on YouTube? So this is the one.
Satchitananda Guru Satchitananda Satchitananda Guru Satchitananda Satchitananda Guru Satchitananda Satchitananda Guru Satchitananda Ananda Guru Om Shivananda Guru Om 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 Satchitananda Guru Satchitananda Satchitananda Guru Satchitananda Satchitananda Guru Satchitananda Satchitananda Guru Satchitananda Ananda Guru Om Shivananda Guru Om 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 Satchitananda Guru Satchitananda Satchitananda Guru Satchitananda Satchitananda Guru Satchitananda Satchitananda Guru Satchitananda Ananda Guru Om Shivananda Guru Om 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 Satchitananda Guru Satchitananda Satchitananda Guru Satchitananda Satchitananda Guru Satchitananda Satchitananda Guru Satchitananda Ananda Guru Om Shivananda Guru Om 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 Satchitananda Guru Satchitananda Satchitananda Guru Satchitananda Satchitananda Guru Satchitananda Satchitananda Guru Satchitananda Ananda Guru
Guru
Guru Ananda Guru Shivananda Guru
That's way too short. What's the other rocking one which everyone enjoys? That Gauri Shankar.
Gauri Shankar Priya Gauri Shankar Priya Gauri Shankar Priya Hare Hare Gauri Shankar Priya Nila Mara Hey Shivananda
Now that all one chick to that is hilarious. You get everything in ABC Farm.
Okay, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. You're about to finish. Come join me. Right or what?
मन हरि बोल जय जय राधा
रमण हरि बोल
रमन हरि बोल जय राधा रमन हरि बोल जय जय राधा
हरि
हरि
बोल
बोल जय जय
हरि बोल
रमन हरि बोल जय राधा रमन हरि बोल जय राधा रमन हरि बोल जय जय राधा हरि बोल
That's the first time I've heard her singing in all these years. Okay, this one is calling me. I've never heard it before. Let's hope it goes well. Hello. It is not bad. It's not bad. Not bad. It's just not familiar. I use the words and also. Which is that? Which one? This one. No, it was Asha ki jai, Ananda ki jai. Asha. 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 No, that's not so. No, that yeah. Somebody asked for Rikshavalli. No? So this becomes a different type of party.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare
Better version. Really bad
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Rama Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama
Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Panduranga Hari, Panduranga Hari, Jai Jai Panduranga Hari, Panduranga Hari, Jai Jai Panduranga Hari, Panduranga Hari, Jai Jai Panduranga Hari, Panduranga, Panduranga, Panduranga Vithala, Panduranga, Panduranga, Panduranga Vithala, 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare Rama,
Thank you all so much for being in Satsang today. Sadhguru Shri Muji Baba ki,
Sadhguru Shri Ananta Ji ki Jai.
Guru Kripa Keval.